Hey everyone, welcome back. You ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. So, today we're looking at something kind of different. It's a poem.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and not just any poem, right? It's by William Wordsworth, that super famous nature poet.
Ah, Wordsworth. Yeah.
And it's funny because sometimes poetry can seem, I don't know, kind of intimidating. All those fancy words and metaphors.
Right, right. Yeah, sometimes it feels like you need a decoder ring just to figure out what they're talking about.
Exactly. But this deep dive, well, it's going to help us unlock some of that hidden magic.
Yeah.
We're going to look at how Wordsworth uses language to paint these amazing pictures and explore some pretty deep ideas about nature and even
Yeah.
spirituality.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah. So get ready to rediscover a bit of that childlike wonder, the kind we often lose as we grow up.
I'm all for that.
Okay, so the poem basically describes this peaceful evening scene, right? But Wordsworth, he doesn't just stop at describing it. He uses it, he uses it to kind of launch into these deeper reflections on beauty and the divine. And one thing that really struck me is how he does that right from the very first line. It is a beauteous evening, calm and free.
Hmm. Yeah. Simple but effective.
Right, like right away you feel this sense of peace and tranquility.
And he just builds on that feeling as the poem goes on. Like with lines like the holy time is quiet as a nun. It's like he's taking this everyday experience, a quiet evening, and he's elevating it to something almost sacred.
Yeah, that's a great point. He uses that simile, comparing the evening to a nun, to really connect the tranquility of nature to this sense of spiritual awe.
Totally. And that connection to the spiritual, it gets even stronger when he starts talking about a mighty being awake in this natural setting.
That's one of the parts that really made me like stop and think, who or what is this mighty being? What do you think Wordsworth is referring to here?
Well, I mean, poetry is always open to interpretation, right? But
Mhm.
but given his deep reverence for nature, it seems pretty likely that he's talking about some kind of divine presence, a force that kind of permeates the natural world. It's like he's saying that we don't have to look to, you know, grand cathedrals or religious texts to find the divine. It's right there in the beauty of a simple evening.
Yeah, I love that idea that the divine can be found in the everyday. And that brings us to another interesting contrast the analysis brings up, the difference between how the poet experiences the evening, all this reflection and philosophy, and how a child might experience it.
Right. Like for a child, there's no need to overthink it. They
Mhm.
just accept the wonder of it all, that sense of the divine in nature. It's just there.
It's so true. It's like as adults, we sometimes lose that ability to just be in awe of the world, to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Do you think Wordsworth is suggesting that we can get that childlike wonder back, or is it something we just lose forever as we get older?
Mm, that's a tough one. I think the poem asks that question, but it doesn't really give us a clear answer. Maybe it's not about going back to some lost innocence, but more about cultivating a kind of mindful awareness, like choosing to see the world with fresh eyes, even as adults.
I like that. Choosing to see the wonder, and maybe that's where all those literary devices he uses come in.
Yeah.
The metaphors, the similes, the personification. I remember in school I used to dread learning about all those terms.
Yeah, me too.
But this analysis it shows how those devices actually make the poem come alive.
Yeah.
They add layers of meaning and emotion.
Totally. Like take that line, the sea breathes, the way he uses alliteration there, repeating this "es" sound. It's not just mimicking the sound of the waves, it's also like he's giving the sea this living presence.
Right. It's like the sea becomes a character in the poem,
Yeah.
breathing alongside us.
Exactly. And by understanding how these devices work, it's like we get this backstage pass to the creative process. We see how Wordsworth is using language to create specific effects, to guide our emotional response to the poem.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So, as we wrap up our deep dive, what would you say are the key takeaways for our listeners? What do you hope they walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that beauty and a sense of the divine, they can be found in the simplest of things. We just have to be open to experiencing them.
Yeah, that's so important. And the poem also asks us to think about our own relationship with nature. Like have we held on to any of that childlike wonder we once had?
Right. It's a great question for all of us to ponder.
It really is. And it's amazing how such a short poem can be packed with so much meaning and provoke so much thought. And for our listeners, if Wordsworth can find the divine in a calm evening scene, I wonder where you might find it in your everyday life. Maybe it's in a moment of shared laughter with loved ones, or in the kindness of a stranger, or maybe even just in the quiet stillness of dawn. Take a moment to pause and appreciate the beauty that's all around you.
And if you haven't already, definitely check out the full poem. It's a short read, but it's so powerful and evocative.
Couldn't agree more. Happy exploring.
Happy exploring.